Each time was different. During the Red demo, that's when I was pretty much just into the classic stuff I'd just gotten into. I was into Metallica, Megadeth, Pantera, Testament, Slayer. When it came time for writing for the Blue demo is when I started getting into band. That was in between the phase of being into the original bands that I loved and starting to get into melodic death metal through bands like In Flames, At the Gates, Dark Tranquillity, Soilwork. And also being exposed to some of the stuff that was going on in metalcore that you could hear make its influence in the songs like To Burn the Eye. That's when I was into bands like Caliban and Heaven Shall Burn, Converge, and that's when I started branching out in a little bit of everything, where I wasn't just into metal anymore, but it was also hardcore, metalcore, melodic death metal. And when it came time for Ember, that was heavily influenced by a lot of the classics we were into, melodic death metal and metalcore. You could really hear where metalcore started to make its influence in songs like Pillars of Serpents, songs like When All Light Dies, songs like the middle section of If I Could Collapse the Masses. We're really starting to get into the metalcore scenes from the States and Germany. I think our influences are always melding and shifting. When it was time for the Red demo, I was really just into metal. That's all I was into. When it was the Blue demo, it was just heavy things. With each record, I've kind of branched out and gotten to something new. I mean, I mentioned the core bands that we're into, melodic death metal, metalcore. I got really heavily into black metal, maybe 17, 18 years old. That never really made its musical, like sonic influence into the band. You don't really hear black metal in our sound, but bands like Emperor have always been really influential on me, that every record we release can be something completely different from the previous. When we were doing the Crusade, I had just started getting into Queen at that time, although you don't really hear a Queen influence on the Crusade, but that's, for me, I'd never really listened to much Queen until 2005, 2006, which is kind of nuts to a lot of people, but that's the way it was. I was a really late comer into Queen. When it came time for Shogun is when I was really getting heavily into the Beatles. You don't really hear a Beatles influence, but you can see that I keep tracing backwards at that point. I kept seeing what was before something else. I think that's really important as a metal fan, to dig into who the heroes of your heroes are. And later on, all the way up to Silence in the Snow, it was us saying, where do all of our favorite bands get it from? Where does In Flames through Pantera through Metallica get it from? And it all seemed to stem back to like Dio, Rainbow, Sabbath, Iron Maiden. So we keep pulling backwards. And then now I think that we've understood the roots of metal all the way up to contemporary. That's where, I guess that's where the exploration, it doesn't really end, but you can keep branching on other forms of music.